Councilman Jesse Bohannon, Commissioner Mike Burrows, District Deputy Commissioner Matt Deitchley, Councilman Fish, Councilman Doug Graham,
Here.
Commissioner Carrie Groninger,
Present.
Councilwoman Kathy Groninger,
Here.
Mayor Jeff Gross,
Present.
Mayor Phil Jenkins, District Deputy Commissioner Todd Johnson, Councilman Kenneth Lee,
Present.
Mayor Gina Lichty, Mayor Robert Listenberger, Mayor James Mueller, Mayor Rob Robertson, Councilman Brian Tanner,
Here.
Councilman Tony Violi,
Here.
Commissioner Susie Wyrick, and Mayor David Wood. We have a quorum of members present. We'll only be voting in person. Many of the city elected officials, mayors, especially, send their regards. They are in Fort Wayne for the AIM Ideas Summit. So appreciate all that can make it today to make sure that we did have a quorum.
Okay, next on our agenda is minutes from August 14th. Any questions on that? If not, I'd look for a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. And next we get the report. Nothing from the chairman today. Debbie, you got finance report for us?
Two financial reports.
Yeah, we got July and August.
I think that we can go through these together and then just approve them at one time as well.
Okay.
They are cumulative, so for August will be a cumulative report. In the month of July, our year-to-date expenses, so this is the beginning of the fiscal year. Just as a reminder, $823,819.05. Our cash disbursements in the month of July was $733,502.69. And then in August, we have expenses of cumulative total of $1,520,372.64. Our cash balance in the bank at the end of August was $1,337,294.58. And our cash disbursements for the month of August was $1,03,661.81. Any questions over either of those two months? If not, I'd like to ask for board approval of the July and August fiscal year 2025.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion and a second, and this is for both the August and September, or excuse me, July and August. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, thank you, Debbie. James, you got anything, Secretary? No, James Rod's gone today.
Mayor Rod filed his report with me, and it is that the September administrative modifications, which are minor corrections and changes that you have authorized staff to make between meetings, that listing is in your packet and available online to the public. That concludes the Secretary's report.
Okay, thank you. Old business.
There's no old business today.
So new business.
New business, and I'll be filling in for Caitlin. She's a little under the weather today. So I'll be handling the transportation resolutions. Our first item is Transportation Resolution 2824. Item A is in Middlebury. This is an amendment where we're adding a phase to the Transportation Improvement Program, specifically the preliminary engineering. This is for Bristol Avenue from Brown Street to Powell. This is a pavement replacement project. That's item A. You can see the preliminary engineering is in split in fiscal 24 and 25. You can see those numbers before you on the agenda. That is item A for locally initiated. We continue. Our next item under NDOT initiated, NDOT item A is also an amendment to add right-of-way to the Transportation Improvement Program for US 6 from State Road 106 Dogwood to Shawnee Drive. That's right near Napanee. So from Bremen to Napanee, essentially, that is a shoulder rehab, and that is adding in right of way So anticipating some small acquisition costs there for the overall project to manage that shoulder. That'll really help, especially in that area with some of the Amish traffic that is in that location, pretty tight shoulders. Item B, this is adding in preliminary engineering, some additional preliminary engineering funding at US 31 and State Road 10. This is still listed as a new interchange construction. Talking with VS Engineering, who's handling that. I think they're whittling it down to about 3 different alternates right now. This is adding in that preliminary engineering for this fiscal year. You can see that before you there in item B.
Can I ask a question before you move on?
Yes.
So when you say additional engineering, is it just because they're exploring further in depth of the 3 projects or the 3 options, or what's going on?
Yeah, it might have just been their original estimated federal funding was lower than the actual contracted price. And so really just going back and making an adjustment is my belief, but I can confirm. Yep. All right, item C. This is adding in a new phase as well as doing some increased construction federal funding. This is an HMA overlay project. For those not familiar, HMA overlay means hot mix asphalt. So this is essentially a paving project. This is in State Road 933, as you can see there, just to the east of Capitol Avenue. And this is right of way for fiscal 25, which is what we're in right now, with an estimated construction in fiscal 26, which is next year, sometime July of next year to June of 26 is fiscal 26. So you can see that before you there. It's about a 2.5 mile project there. This item is already, the construction is already in the transportation improvement program. So we're just adding funds. It's just adding significant funding to it, as well as then adding in some right-of-way purchases, probably for curbs and temporary parcels and those kind of things for staging. Happy to answer any questions related to Transportation Resolution 2824. Those are the items before you that encompass that resolution, the locally initiated Middlebury project, as well as then the 3 NDOT projects.
Great. No other questions. I look for a motion to approve these being added to the tip.
Motion approved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, looks like we're ready for some staff updates then, James.
We are ready for some staff updates. We wanted to introduce a few new folks that are you'll be seeing at meetings and that are going to be helping us from a staff perspective. First, Kelsey. Kelsey, you may remember because she was an AmeriCorps member last year, serving with MACOG as our Clean Transportation and Energy Fellow. She'll be continuing in that role throughout this year, as well as we have been able to bring her on part-time to help the transportation department, help Caitlin out as a transportation planner. So Kelsey has just recently started her part-time role as a transportation planner. And then in her other hat that she'll be wearing, she'll be helping the sustainability department out with clean energy and transportation fellow. So Kelsey, didn't know if you wanted to say anything, say hello, or
Hello, everyone. Excited to be carrying on in both positions.
Thanks.
so we look forward to that as Kelsey was a great addition last year from the AmeriCorps side of things. We also have Nick. Nick, you may also remember because Nick was also an AmeriCorps member last year. And now he is in the In Focus program as an In Focus fellow. And we've brought Nick in working with In Focus to provide some additional support from the transportation side of things to help Caitlin out. And so you'll see Nick working on a lot of different items kind of related to the transportation improvement program. So Nick, don't know if you want to say anything.
Sure. So I'm originally from California, did school in upstate New York, but there's no place like Michiana. And I'm very grateful to have it be my adopted home and hopefully help out in any way I can and learn more about it. So, yeah, I mean, good restaurants, let me know.
And then last but not least, Antone.
Hello.
Hi. He was also, you may remember, an AmeriCorps member last year. Yeah, there's a theme here, huh? And he's continuing in that AmeriCorps role, helping us out with transportation. You may have saw him biking around on all of our trails as we have completed data collection with our data bike on the majority of our trail system. And we'll be creating an initial trail condition report here in the coming future, but Anton's going to be continuing to serve with us throughout this year as well. And so didn't know if you wanted to say anything.
Yeah, just really grateful for this opportunity and just honored to be in the same room with all you guys, passionate about making the community better. So it's cool to see so many people that have the same passion.
I wanted to be able to introduce some of those new faces to the team so that if you have any questions kind of related to electric vehicle charging, things with sustainability front or transportation, feel free to go to Kelsey. If you have questions about transportation improvement items, feel free to talk with Nick, as well as then if you have anything kind of active transportation, bike trails related, always feel free to talk to Anton. Obviously, there are other staff members who handle all of those areas as well, but those are additional resources for you. So excited to have them all on board.
Great. Welcome. So next we get grants and funding, get some call for projects.
Yeah, so MACOG, as you'll recall, MACOG oversees on an annual basis about $16 million that's invested inside the urban areas. That would include South Bend, Mishawaka, the urban portion of St. Joe County, as well as in Elkhart, Goshen, and the urban portions of Elkhart County. It also does cover say the town of Osceola or Roseland or Bristol, those kind of areas as well. And every 2 years, we have our call for projects. And that is open right now. That is considering projects through, this pains me to say, because it makes me feel a little bit old, through fiscal 2031. Okay. And so, as you know, much of our program is usually front loaded. We have to develop these projects over the course of 3 or 4 years. And so much of the funding in fiscal 26, 27, and 28 are spoken for, but we really start to see those openings for new projects from the construction side of things in fiscal 29, 30, and 31. But the time to start a fiscal 31 project is soon in order to get through that kind of 4 or 5 year timeline. So we do have that call for projects that is open now. We've been talking with your technical staffs about that to make sure that they're aware. Applications are due November 15th. This is largely considerations for new projects, but of course we are looking at what it'll take to add any additional funds to existing projects to make sure that we can make those whole or close to whole from an 80-20 funding perspective. So that's due November 15th. All of that can be found on our website. And there is a web form to submit those applications. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to any of us. But we have been talking with your technical staffs about that call for projects. So
Quick question.
Yep.
Just curious. Elkhart County 31, a huge jump. Why is that? I mean, I know it's estimated.
What's that?
The Elkhart Goshen urbanized area, the
Oh,
big jump to
sure.
31.
Yeah. So
You can see that? I'm kind of impressed.
good
Yeah, I
job.
just gave up, actually.
Yeah. So
Take a picture and see
Right?
what I-
I can't see that. What is he reading?
yeah,
The chart there on the,
yeah,
where it goes to 6 million, is it?
yeah, it is
Yeah.
correct.
What's the subject?
So the subject is the amount of funding, right? So the estimated funding every year we have in South Bend, that urbanized area, about $10 million. And every year we have about $6 million in the Elkhart Goshen urbanized area. What that is showing you is that the Elkhart Goshen urbanized area have projects that are essentially projecting out through 2030. So the first time that we have our full allocation where projects aren't programmed for the Elkhart Goshen urbanized area, because you all have a lot of projects and we don't get as much funding there, is fiscal 31. So that's why there's the jump. There's just nothing programmed right now in fiscal 31 right now.
And once you submit a call for a project, that would lower that number. I
Correct.
got you.
You got it.
So it's just the fact that it's so far out that.
Yep.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay.
It's
That's
that,
just the unallocated funds.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, it just jumped out at me.
Yeah.
I'm
absolutely.
just curious as to why in fiscal year 27 and 29, there's more money for that line.
Sometimes projects move around. So sometimes you have a preliminary engineering that gets delayed or a right of way that takes a little bit more time because the environmental document took a little too long, or the reverse side. We have a really cost competitive letting and we need to bring some preliminary engineerings forward so that we can obligate all of our money. I can't recall the specific of the why in those fiscal years. But a lot of times it's just kind of as projects shift around. We're constantly managing making,
Dollars.
the dollars, and there are micro adjustments and major adjustments throughout an entire year. And that's why we kind of list estimated. But yeah, sometimes it's just depends on what's already been programmed. A lot of times also we'll try to leave a little bit of buckets there because, we do fund preliminary engineering on the front end. And so if you're going to have a project, say in fiscal 30 or 31, you're going to start that project 4 or 5 years in advance. And so we want to be able to provide the preliminary engineering funds there. So
Makes sense. Thank you.
absolutely.
Any other questions? Any other grants or funding, James?
Those are that's the major one right now. So yeah.
Okay, next is some plans and programming.
Sorry, as there were a couple things, one more on that.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
All right, so the NDOT roll call is now out and about, and that is going to be due December 6th. So this would be for the rural portions, essentially outside of that urban area that we just talked about. So St. Joe County, Elkhart County, all of Marshall and all of Kosciuszko, and then those associated cities and towns in those rural areas. This application is due December 6th. I don't have in front of me, but can try to look up while we're doing other presentations, which fiscal year this is for, just to give you reference. I want to say it's maybe fiscal 29, but I'll double check on that. I could be off. So this is if you have county bridges, intersection improvements, sidewalks, any of those federal transportation projects that you might have. This is that call, and it is due December 6th. So we have a little bit of time to do some development. If you need any help with your application, with project idea generation, how to make sure that your project is ready, please feel free to reach out with us, and we will help you navigate through that process. Always happy to do that.
Great. All right, next on our updates, we wanted to make sure everyone here was aware, we launched a new public engagement section of our website at engage.macog.com. This is where we'll be consolidating all our various public outreach and engagement work that we do for our plans, both for our transportation work, so for our long range plan and the TIP and the other plans there, but also for our community development work and our sustainability work. All will be kind of consolidated here. It's a new platform that's hosted through a program called Social Pinpoint. So it has a lot of integrated tools for engagement, primarily online engagement is what this is focusing on, but we'll be able to kind of parallel that with our in-person engagement as well. And right now we have 2 projects currently on there, but we'll be moving more and more as we go. So the Move Safe Michiana plan, our safety plan, you'll find information there. We can clear some updates on that a little later. And then our charging and fueling infrastructure grant initial engagement has been funneled through this program as well. This is just a snapshot. Right now, there's not you can go on there, you can see a little bit of this, but we're not really got into the breadth of what it can do. This is a snapshot of various tools that it can do. So from doing survey work, survey forms to maps where you can interact with a map and put in comments and information to vision boards and question and answers. We can display a lot of facts, videos, and as a kind of website engagement item. So I think it's going to really improve a lot of our outreach and work. Again, make it hopefully a easy place for everyone to gather together to get information on this work that we're doing. So really excited to see this kind of develop over the next year and more towards that end. So again, as you look in the future, you'll see that at engage.macog.com, and if you ever have any questions about how that works, feel free to reach out to us. So.
Zach, will that also be for like if there's an individual project that you're working on for our community? It's all going to be at that same platform.
Yeah, that's what our goal is. So right now we're talking in some comprehensive plans. Next round we'll be planning using this. We can do it for some of our grant work that requires some public engagement as well. Those sort of things where we can kind of centralize that.
Yeah, because I think that's one of the things, at least what we've experienced in Kosciuszko County, when it comes to that community engagement, it's just tough to really have something that everybody knows where it is and is used to, so they know where to go to, because it seems like it's always somewhat disappointing, the lack of interaction you get with your constituents sometimes.
And then it's a good way we have some communication tools back and forth through this way as well, so you can kind of get on and be engaged that way. And then also as a team, we're so many different projects are involved that helps us kind of standardize some of our practices and make it a little more efficient for us. Right now we have 4 or 5 tools that do a lot of what this does. And so it makes every person then has a different approach to it. And so this is going to hopefully make things easier for us to manage and to analyze this data, to get it back out to the public and to our stakeholders as well.
I'd even say as we hire consultants, if you're willing to kind of fund or do that part, or you have a platform or almost a following that they can use, that ought to even help with reduce some of the
talked
costs.
a little bit about that and what opportunities there might be for those projects to utilize this platform as well. If it's something that makes sense. So yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, with the amount of planning work that we do, when we step back and we're looking at it, we start over the planning engagement process every single time when we do a plan, right? So last year, over 18 months, we did the Connect Transit Plan. Right. And we engaged all of those kind of folks, those stakeholders, made different contacts, all of those kind of things. But that plan was led by the transit department. So then when we went to go do the next plan and it was led by someone else, let's say the transportation department, right? We're going to do our long range plan. All of those transit connections, all of those transit folks who are interested in the long-term future of transit may not have been ported over because it was done by a different team, right? And so what we're hoping for, and definitely can see in this, is that when folks are signing up to follow these projects, they can go to a more central database for us so that we can, try to engage them further in later projects, let alone just, trying to create some institutional memory around how we standardize some public engagement and do those things. Make it easier also for the public to find out. And if you're interested in safety and you're on our website and you see that, and then you see something else, you can more easily follow along. So.
Good. Great idea. That is that.
Yes, that's it for me.
Morning, Dustin.
Morning. Part of my update is on the public engagement part of the SS4A plan, so I'm feeling like you guys just said it all.
Ta-da.
So I'll jump right in, like none of that was said. We've kind of finished up the first part of the public engagement for the SS4A plan, and have crunched some of the numbers, and just to kind of give you a brief overview, we did about 47 hours of public engagement at events, at 25 different events. And then the electronic side of things, we had the map available. We had over 1,100 people engaged with the map and identify places on there. So I think that is in large part to you and your staffs for pushing that out. So thank you all. Kind of a breakdown, or at least preliminary breakdown of what we've seen. And this is not biased by me, just to mention, about 45% of the people identified bike lanes or sidewalk improvement locations. So I honestly mention that as something for you guys to be aware of when you're talking with the public, because there is a strong interest in those kinds of things. And then about 25% identified unsafe driving behavior as part of the problems in their area. So that's kind of fitting with the things that we're looking at and planning through the SS4A plan. It's part of what came through with we're calling them pre-charrette meetings that we've had with some of you and then your staffs. Over the last couple of weeks, we met with all 8 communities in the MACOG area, and then the 4 counties also separately. The idea was that we've got the charrettes coming up October 22nd through the 24th. We wanted to kind of front load those, if you will, make those charrettes as efficient of your time and our time as possible by kind of identifying a project at least, or projects that we can kind of spend the next couple of weeks grinding on and coming up with some ideas, some possible solutions for you guys to talk about in more depth during the charrettes. So the ultimate goal of this plan really, yes, is to give you the data and give you the ammunition to plan for more projects, but to have at least one project where you can focus on to go for additional funding. So we're kind of inching our way toward that, and I think pretty great strides getting toward the end of the year where we'll be presenting those things. So I mentioned the charrette dates, early December. I don't think we've identified a firm date yet, but is when we're going to be doing the next task force meeting, everybody in the room, and talk about kind of the results of the charrette. I would say kind of draft recommendations, but definitely getting toward the end and the end of the year.
Before you run away, I can confirm that's what we hear as a commissioner side of things, the more greater public access, pedestrian access, but specifically unsafe driving concerns. And I don't remember this in any of my years with MACOG, but I don't know if we're willing to start to maybe dip our toe in the water of recommendations for unsafe practices, or making recommendations along those lines, or making additional observations. For Elkhart County specifically, we struggle with additional police or sheriff monitoring. We find that the majority of everything is around speeding, with or without cell phone use. I mean, that's a hard one. We can't, without cameras, we can't really gauge that, but we can get to speeding. And the public always wants, what are those stupid things? Speed bumps that are ridiculous and they don't work and they ruin our roads, but it is what it is. I don't know what other options we have to really pursue if we can't do the enforcement on the speeding, and we really shouldn't put in the speed bumps. I don't know that the speed bumps actually stop anybody anyway. So just throwing that out there because I cannot make this charrette, but if we look at possible suggestions on how to tackle this creatively within the AASHTO guidelines to continue to minimize our liability.
Yeah, and I think, what we're trying to do is provide you all with data and then kind of a toolbox of options. So, we have done analysis of all the crashes that have occurred from 19 through 2023. And we can tell you that in Elkhart County, 66% of all fatal and serious injuries involving bicyclists occur on 1.81% of your roadways, right? We can do that for motorcyclists. We can do that for buggies. We can do that for just your vehicular traffic as well. For all of your counties and communities, we're creating essentially a high injury network where you can see that visualized. And that's going to, of course, change over time as various crashes occur. But I think there are systemic and systematic ways that we can work towards small safety improvements or much larger capital projects.
Well, and that's something that we have done consistently. I mean, we've, with everybody's participation, worked together to identify some of those areas that need maybe some improvements on the road improvements for safety. But there's gotta be some other creative ways that we can start to solve and see improvements for these problems within the AASHTO and other safety guidelines.
I mean, there are some tactical urbanism things that aren't necessarily exclusive to urban areas with your temporary barriers and paint striping and things of that nature to draw more attention to it. I think those are the kinds of things that you're referring to, because you can't enforce your way out of bad design. Not to say that people were intending to be bad designers, but they were following standard practices from 20, 30 years ago that are only now becoming refined and modernized to what we know.
Well,
our
and
driver
let's
habits
face
are.
it, a county highway is used differently today than it was 20 years ago. So increasing speed, and maybe this is a bit of a hangover from Commissioner Smith with NDOT, speed is still a huge issue.
It's a giant component. Yeah. No, and so, one of the things with these charrettes that we're also looking to do is we're trying to drill down on a few projects that you might want to continue to refine, whether you pursue NDOT rural funding, MACOG urban funding, SS4A national funding, or projects where we can use the tactical urbanism lending library that we have and do some temporary projects to do some demonstration to try to get some buy-in from the folks that drive it or the local areas to see then if there are some viable projects moving forward. So,
And they're part of the SS4A program is demonstration funding.
Yeah.
And the federal definition of demonstration is about a 5-year time frame. So, what we might not consider temporary, they do. So to do, like you were saying, kind of more permanent or longer lasting tactical urbanism techniques, if nothing else, to try. We've also, as we've gone through and kind of discussed the different projects from the different communities, we saw a nice uniqueness to each one. That's probably a horrible way to describe it, but for instance, South Bend, the thing we dialed in on was their speeding in arterials through neighborhoods. That's obviously not unique to South Bend, but the things that we'll come up with and present as part of that will be applicable throughout the other communities as well. So I don't know that we'll necessarily have every answer, but I think we'll have a much broader toolbox, if you will, of things to show you.
Dustin, can you also touch on the pavement playbook as we have done
Yeah, I was
this?
thinking about that as well. So part of the SS4A contract that we put in there was to develop, we're not even calling it tactical urbanism. The pavement playbook that James mentioned, it's based on tactical urbanism, but as you guys are aware, most of our area that we work in is rural. And so how can we apply those same tactical urbanism ideas to urban, to rural applications? So that's kind of the concentration of the playbook. There is some urban components to it as well, but how can we best use our toolkit throughout our area? We've got some examples kind of scattered from around or drawn from around the country, as well as some specific examples from our community, from the 4 counties that are part of it, and then proposed solutions using our tactical urbanism kit. It's kind of similar to what we're doing with the charrettes, but at a very, very specific level. We should have a draft to at least talk about at the end of November. Yeah.
Do you have times for those meetings?
I do, off the top of my head, I don't know, but
The 23rd is 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. But that's for the folks in St. John County.
Hold on. Let me pull up my
I was
calendar and
curious what
see.
time to
Yep.
ask that.
Yeah.
Yeah, my calendar.
All right, that's the 24th. And I don't have it right now. I just have it blocked out on my whole day. So we'll make sure to email that out to the board on the days and times.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Dustin?
That is for that.
Next. So the Indiana DNR is having a charrette, for the state trail system, November 14th. They do this, I think, every 4 years. So it's basically to kind of update the state trails plan. I'm going to be there. I would encourage anyone else from your communities that would like to go. Don't necessarily have to let me know, but the more the better. You know, I kind of follow the squeaky wheel idea, and if we're squeaking pretty loud up here, I'd like to think that they would prioritize some funding and efforts toward our area. So I will not be quiet, but I will be there and would love to have others as well.
Where's that at?
Down in Indianapolis at the State House.
You know what time?
9 to 3, it looks like right there. I can see that. I saw it.
Wow. We're doing a great visual test here. Former Mayor Tolmer would be proud of our eye test here that we're running.
Is that the actual state house then?
It's at the government center south, I believe.
Okay.
We'll email out that information as well.
Dustin, are those trails specific to within the state park system, or it's beyond that, isn't it?
Beyond that, yeah, it's truly like the major kind of not spines, but the major corridors through the state.
And these played a major role when they were doing next level trails. Of if your trail vision was in there, you got certain regional and statewide based kind of point bonuses. If you were part of the Visionary Trail Network or this or that. So is that fair?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right.
The trail from the Cedar Creek State Park over to North Liberty be part of this? Is that already
Well,
been decided?
if, like I said, I'm going to bring it up.
We would hope that DNR would consider that.
Yeah. And, you know, again, that's kind of part of the squeaky wheel thing to me. That is as big a priority, I think. You know, there's bigger corridors that they're working on, but as far as, I mean, it's their newest in that's going in. I would think they'd want to connect to it. Whether or not I hope that they're aware of it, but, you know, they will be by the end of the meeting as far as I'm concerned.
All right, next up, thanks, Dustin. Next up, we have our quarterly tracking and review. Once a quarter, we sit down. Obviously, we're in regular communication with your technical staff, but once a quarter, we sit down with your technical staff, your consultants, NDOT and Federal Highway to go over each of the projects, whether it's urban funded or rural funded, just to kind of get a status update, make sure we know where it's at in the process. That's October 10th. And so we'll be working through that throughout most of that day. So later this week, what is that, tomorrow?
Yeah.
Oh, that is tomorrow. All right. So throughout all of tomorrow, we'll be really taking deep dives into where each of those projects are at. So just FYI. And then we have our 25 to 2029 comprehensive economic development strategies. So.
Good morning, everyone. Wanted to update you that we are approaching the end of our 5-year window for our current 2020-2024 comprehensive economic development strategy. Some of you remember we had updated this back in 2019. We have been designated as an economic development district by the Federal Economic Development Administration back in 2011. So as a requirement as a district, every 5 years, we are needing to update this type of a plan. It's a great opportunity that fosters collaborative partnerships with many of your communities, and we seek to advance those infrastructure and economic development projects. So trying to wrap that up, we are kicking that off at the end of this month. And I would kindly ask if a few policy board members would like to volunteer to serve on that steering committee. I greatly appreciate it because to help us make sure that the work that your communities are focusing on are being prioritized in this plan. You don't kill me now, but if you'd like to see me afterwards, or James or Carla, again, we kindly appreciate that. And share your availability in this month, and then we'll get scheduling the kickoff.
And the commitment, usually we have about 2 to 4 policy board members that are on the steering committee. Typical commitment is that over the next 2 quarters, so throughout this quarter and next quarter, there'll be probably about 2 meetings in each quarter is my rough estimate. Okay. Yeah. So if there's anybody who's interested.
Will that be remote or in person?
It will be probably a hybrid option. All right, Raj has some exciting news.
Morning, everyone. I'm here to provide an overview on our recent travel demand model RFP issued on August 7th and submissions closed on September 9th. We received 4 promising proposals from the Corradino Group, the Cambridge Systematics, Caliper, and RST. Following a thorough internal evaluation, we identified 2 standing proposals, which was from Cambridge Systematics and the Corradino Group, and which leads us to conduct 2 interviews with both the firms. And we conducted interviews with both firms last week and rescored them. And based on the internal evaluation again, we decided to go with Cambridge Systematics. So the project will be starting from November based on their submissions, and should be ending by the end of the March 2026. So we'll be having a new travel demand model beginning at the 2026.
And that'll be just in time for our new long-range plan, but it'll also help as you all evaluate projects. Your consulting firms will typically ask us for growth projections or banded years of what we're seeing from the large model of how that impacts traffic. So as they go through and do design and those kind of things. And so it's going to be a little bit of a simpler model, but I think it'll be a great tool that we can wield a little bit better. So this was also a collaborative RFP because the model many years ago, we added the Niles, Michigan area, since that's part of the same urban area. And so we partnered with MDOT for that procurement. So they were great help with us. Just wanted to provide you that information. When it comes to other procurements, we have our general legal counsel request for proposal or request for qualifications out right now. Our current contract is 3 years with 2 different individual years for renewal. We're at the end of our renewal. And so we are out on the market asking for requests for qualifications. That is due by October 18th. And then we'll take those proposals under advisement.
Do we have any indication that we need to switch?
No.
Okay.
It's just that we,
yeah.
Okay. I mean, other than Mr. Triple isn't here today, but I know. Ms. Acker is here, so we're very well covered. But no, we've been happy with the service that we've provided or been provided. It is just that the contract is up, and so we need to go back out to the market. Yeah.
All right.
Morning.
Busy procurement season. I will be closing out the staff updates for the last 2 updates on brownfields procurement. We expect to announce the consultant that we'll be working with on our new EPA brownfields assessment grant within the next week or so. We just completed our interviews with the finalists, and we'll be working on getting contracts in place this month. For those of you that might not be as familiar with the program, we received a new grant that's $1.5 million over the next 4 years that can be used anywhere in our region to assess potentially contaminated properties to get those back to more productive reuse in community. So if there are any properties that come up or any questionable
past uses on any redevelop projects, we're happy to help with some sampling or some due diligence documents to make sure that people are protected from that liability of acquiring those sites. Any questions about brownfields grants, I'm happy to answer. Otherwise, the last procurement update that I have is our open request for proposals for our regional charging and fueling infrastructure grant. Zach talked a little bit about the Engage platform that we're using to share updates, including procurement information. You can also find that on our website. For anyone that is interested in the procurement, the 2 addendums have been added after a site visit at South Bend International Airport and our pre-submission meeting. So important deadline here would be November 1st. I don't anticipate necessarily that local government owned sites would be the best site for this type of project. I've been hearing that there have been calls to local government staff about this project and seeking sites, but don't feel any need to respond to those inquiries. And MACOG can't have any further conversation with those parties that are inquiring since we have an open RFP. Just want to clarify that since there have been a number of inquiries there. And just as a recap on what this grant is funding, it's for fast charging stations. So think about road trip, really quick, 15, 30-minute stop. And the locations that we've selected are along US 30, one near Plymouth, one near Warsaw, and then the South Bend International Airport. For the US 30 locations, we didn't pick the exact site. We just said, give us your best proposal within a mile of US 30. So we'll just see what we get and evaluate those proposals.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of generalized interest in that. We had 3 different pre-proposal conversations that were all recorded and online and available. Lots of vendors that were interested in that. We had the one on-site pre-proposal meeting where they could see where the location is for the South Bend International Airport. And so we're excited to see for the level 3 side what we'll receive from proposals. And for anyone who is interested on the level 2, which is a much more localized kind of charging destination. Yeah, might be much more in that realm of like, you know, at parks or libraries or schools or in downtowns. That is still yet to come. That is going to be later.
The last thing I was going to mention is if you go to that Engage website, you'll see an open site host application form for those level 2 destination charging stations. It's open right now. It'll be closing October 14th for private sites, but for local governments, because you can be subrecipient of our funds directly, we'll continue to accept site nominations until November 1st, which aligns up with the same deadline for the level 3. So if there are any potential locations, and I can review the towns, the libraries, the schools that are already participating in that program that we will awarded.
Has anyone had any trouble with matching on those, on the level 2 stuff that you're seeing or anticipating? What is the match? Maybe I
guess. The match is 20%.
Okay, so like normal. But
so
yeah.
like could be anywhere from $12,000 to $15,000. MACOG is helping. Last year it was approved for our budget to have, I think, $18,000. I know $18,000 total of our local funds that would be divided among small towns only, so population less than 5,000. So I think about 2,000 to 3,000 per town that will be directly assisting towards that 12 to 15. It's not really been an issue. The issue has been space. Federal minimum standards now require 4 charging spaces, and then the 5th one has to be taken out of circulation for the ADA access aisle. So where in a small town in public parking, you're going to take up 5 spaces. That's been the biggest, those that have dropped out or deferred to our second phase. So we're doing a 2025 construction and a 2027 construction, breaking this up into 2 phases. Middlebury, New Carlisle, Bremen, and there may be one other, are probably going to defer and decide in 2027 if they can make this work, just because primarily space, maybe a little bit funding.
So if I understood you correctly, you need 5 spaces to qualify for this?
Yes. You need 4. You need 4 charging spaces, and then one of those has to be ADA accessible. So you have to have that extra wide space in the aisle. So it's just when those federal minimum standards came out after we, it was a little upsetting because it really puts the small towns at a disadvantage to receive this funding, just due to not being able to place these. And you can't put 2 and 2, like let's put 2 at the park and 2 at City Hall or Town Hall. They have to be together, the federal government wants to see the most cost-effective construction of these projects, and it's more cost-effective to do more in one location. It's just not good for communities with really limited public parking.
If the land existed, but the spots did not, could the local match include the construction of the actual paved spots? Could that be a component of it?
That could be included. That'd be very expensive. And there are actually a couple of these that are being deferred to 2027. It's because they have their eye on a vacant lot or a demo that they're going to convert to public parking, and they want to build that project first and then do this. So that's actually already part of the consideration for some of these. Because public parking is already a concern that we hear a lot in small towns, so. It's just a struggle, and so that puts the bigger box stores at more of the advantage to being able to host these. And those aren't always the best locations for a destination to draw people through downtown area. So, but happy to talk about any particular town or city location that we have discussed. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
That concludes our staff updates for today.
So we get the privilege of the floor. Anyone have anything to add to the group today? Public comment? Anyone in the
There's
crowd?
nothing online.
Nothing online? Okay, Pat, look for adjournment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next meeting date, when is it?
Next meeting date is not in front of me. It would be,
13th, I think.
yeah.
We didn't get the date change on the bottom of the wall.
Yeah.
September 11th.
Yeah, it's not September 11th.
November 13th.
It is not September 11th. It would be November 13th. November 13th. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Always the last thing. And then one resolution.